And then we move on to trim and extend. Now, one of the major differences between the version of AutoCAD 2018 and below and version of AutoCAD 2019 to the latest one, which is 2025, is that 2018 and below, their main differences is in this trim and extend tool here. Let's say for example now, let me draw these three lines. One, two. Let me draw this, and now let me draw. Okay, let me switch on my midpoint. So let me do another line here. Now let me assume I want to trim this object. I want to trim this line now. I want to trim this line to this next to this middle boundary here. Once I select my trim, now the first time I'm selecting my trim or extend command, it will be expecting me to select a boundary in which I want to trim or extend to. Now let me select this boundary, for example. I've selected it. I will now press enter. Now it's now expecting me now. You see that it's highlighted this boundary line now. So it's expecting me now to select the object I want to trim, in which as I'm trimming it, it will be stopping at the boundary that is highlighted, which is this. It will be stopping at the exact boundary highlighted. Let's go back again and see. Let me now draw another line again now. So let's extend this. Now, let's look at something now. I want to trim this line now. I want to trim this horizontal line now. Now, if I select trim and I should right click, then I'm not selecting any boundary. And definitely I will need to be trimming it one by one then. I have to trim the lines one by one. So, but if I should select trim and let's assume I want it to jump over this line and trim to this line now. So I'll select this line as my boundary, then enter, then I'll select it, the line I want to trim, and it will trim crossing over the first boundary and stopping at the next boundary I selected. That's how it works. Same thing goes for the extend also. As I selected my extend, first of all, it will expect me to select the boundary I want to extend it to, which is this. Then I'll click on enter, then I'll extend the line. That's just how it works. But if I should click on extend and I right click, it will just extend it one by one till I get where I'm going. So for both trim and extend, they don't work without boundary. Yeah, because there's nothing you want to trim if there is no boundary for where the trimming object is going to be stopped. And extend also, there's no extend if it does not have a boundary it's going to extend to. So they both work with boundaries. And then the next one is break at point. We are having a break at point tool here. Now that's, let's see what is used for. Now this is my line. I've drawn my line now. And this is a straight line, right? It's a straight line. And now let's assume I want to break the line in the middle here. I want to break it in the middle, but it will still look like a straight line, but it will be two completely different lines. Let's select this now. You see that it's selecting this as a single line. These are my end points and the midpoint of the line. So now let's break it at the middle. I've selected the line and I've broken it here now. This line now are now two different lines. This is a single line, this is a single line. Meanwhile, before I broke it, the two lines were a single line. So now they are now two different. I can select the two parts differently now. That's just for that. And for the other one now, which is break, ordinary break, that one now will break the two line, it will break the lines with a space in between. Let's use that. Let's assume this is the line I want to break now. If I select it, it will assume that's my first point of break, or that's my first break point. Now let me now select the other point I want it to break to. I've selected it now. It will break the line at a point but leaving space. You know, the first one is break at point. It will just break the line at a point without space. But the other one, which is break, it will break lines into two different completely lines. Yeah, let me put it that way, with a space in between. That's just the difference between the two. And the other one, which is join, I can join all the lines back to become a single line now. Now let's use that join. Let me select all the lines at once. I'll select the first line, the second line, and the third line, enter. Everything will join and become a single line now. So that's just the work of that. And then the chamfer and the fillets, they both work more or less the same way. Let's assume I'm drawing another line here, for example. Yeah, let me draw another line here, for example. This is a vertical line and horizontal line. Now the chamfer and fillet are used to join two perpendicular lines. Though they both work the same way at first, they both join lines to become perpendicular at 90-degree, but they have their specific commands to make them different also, because they are two different tools. Without the command, they will just join the two lines perpendicularly. But once you now input the command, then it will bring out the differences between them. But let's do the two. Now the first one is, I'll just click on it without the special command for it. As I click on the first line, the second line, it will join them perpendicularly. Same thing goes for fillet also. It will join them perpendicularly. Now, okay. Now let's now use the special command for both of them now. Now for this now, chamfer, I've selected it. Now we are dealing with distance. We need to cut out a small section of this line here and a small section of this line here to join our lines vertically or diagonally here now. So with that, we need distance. We need to measure the distance from this point here to a point here, from this point here to a point here. So now we need to specify the distance, and for us to do that, we'll type D, enter, to give it the command that we want to input distance now. So now let's use a distance of 100, for example, enter, and then for the next line, 100, enter also. So I've selected the first line. This first line selects now, it will subtract 100 from this point to a point here. And this other line too, it will subtract 100 from a point to a point here and join them. I've done that, but the 100 is small. That's why the so actually the lines are meeting somewhere here. This is coming down, this is coming down, like they are both meeting somewhere here. But I imputed the distance of 100, that's why it reduced it and joined them there at the same point there. So now let's go back and try the fillet now. Let's use for fillet. Fillet now will not deal with distance, it will deal with radius because it's a curved object, it's a curved tool. So input R for radius. Let's use 100. So for our radius, the radius of the arc we want to draw there now, we use 100. Let's select first line and the second line has created the arc here. So the radius of this arc now is 100. So that's just how fillet and chamfer works. And then the next one, which is the blend curves. Let's assume maybe something like this. Where are the curves I drew earlier? Okay, something like this. You are drawing a curve like this and it's having a crack in between, or maybe it's not smooth enough. Then you use this to blend it. You blend them together to become a very good object, like a very smooth object like that. Though we'll come to do that very well when we are doing our 3D, and we'll see how it works. Though we don't usually use it for 2D here. And the last one, which is the explode, and that works why maybe when you want to separate joint object together. Let's assume for this rectangle now, you know I said earlier that we use polyline to draw this rectangle, and anywhere I select on the rectangle is selecting the whole rectangle as a unit. So now let me now explode this now. I want this line here to become a separate line, this line here is separate line, this line here is separate line, and this also is separate line. So for us to do that, we'll use explode. So I've highlighted the object. Now let's explode it. Now it has been exploded. Each line can now be selected as a single unit. Now this time around, not the whole rectangle as a single unit. Each line now is now a single unit. So that will be all for today. At least we've learned out the uses of each of these tools, and maybe when we start drawing proper, then we'll learn how to use the measurement tools or the annotation tools. But not all will be used here, not all, just a few of them. So in the next class, we'll continue we'll proceed and start drawing, making our drawings. We'll start maybe by with a two bedroom or a single bedroom for starters, and then we'll continue. See you in the next class.